The title for this video speaks for itself, and it is no exaggeration. Let's get into my results that were spread across 2 local card rooms. Then I'll go over 5 hands which I played during the stretch, 2 of which were just gigantic pots. Then the other 3 I found to be more interesting. I started off with a decent loss, playing a 5-5 mix between No Limit Hold'em and PLO, switching every round. I then follow that with 3 pretty good wins in a row. The first at 1-2 PLO, then back to the mixed one, then just the classic No Limit Hold'em. These 2 poker rooms have certain games and also bigger games that are scheduled each week, so I am very reliant on that in my game selection. Follow that with an almost $1,500 loss at 1-2 PLO. This PLO game is uncapped, plays much bigger than the blinds would indicate. I would say it plays stake-wise equivalent to a 5-5 1,000 cap No Limit Hold'em game. This was actually my biggest losing session ever, which I'm sure is bound to keep getting beaten with these super deep stack games and huge swings in PLO. I finished off with a marathon session in which I squeak out a small win. Overall, just slightly worse than breaking even, nothing special to see, but then, the next stretch, I ran as hot as the sun. I started off the week with an over 5K win at the 5-5 mix game at Outlaws Casino on a Monday, where I played my biggest pot ever at just over 6K. Spoiler alert, I won. The next 2 sessions led to a cool 2K win, then back to playing the 5-5 mix, this time at Central Coast Casino. I scored a $4,500 win, and my second biggest pot ever. Spoiler alert, I won that pot too. A long PLO session with a win over 3K, then back to my bread and butter it seems, the 5-5 mix game with another 4-figure win. Overall, up almost 16K over 40 hours. That's pretty good.
No shit, Sherlock!
Now on to the spoiler alerted winning hands. The first 2 being at Outlaws for my over 5K win and biggest pot ever. Ace-King suited in the big blind, facing an early position open, a 3-bet right behind, then a cold call in middle position, and the action is on me. This to me is particularly interesting spot because the original raiser had such a short stack compared to the rest of the table. A more creative line would be to trap premium hands here more often if, and that's a big if, we believe the original raiser will shove. I glance over and he doesn't give anything away indicating a shove. Some players would do that, like getting their chips ready. It actually would be a good spot for him to shove anyway. The short stack is most likely not thinking all about that and will just close the action with the call. So I go for a 6x cold 4-bet to 300. Pretty big because I'm the effective stack with the other 2 players at 2K, which is 400 big blinds deep. The first 2 players quickly fold, then the cold caller actually takes some time before making the call himself. I'm putting him on a pretty clear range here for now, as it looks a lot like a pocket pair that didn't want to 4-bet himself. Something around pocket 9s to pocket jacks. Also, maybe some suited broadways, of course. Flop is king, queen, jack with 1 diamond. I could easily have all 3 sets. So ace, king, or even pocket aces is not that high in my value range anymore. So I check. The villain checks back, and a perfect offsuit 10 hits the turn. For sure got a bet now, not wanting to give him the odds to fill up if he does have a set. I bet 400 for 60% pot, and he calls. He would need about 4-1 to be getting the direct odds to fill up. River is a blank, and I don't expect him to call a big bet since it looks exactly like I have an ace. So I go for the down bet of just 200. Maybe could have got a little bit bigger, but I do like the smaller sizing on this very specific board. He shakes his head in disgust before making the call, showing pocket 10s. The night is dwindling down, and we are now five-handed. It's been a great night for me, and I am now over 3K deep in the small blind with the bullets. The under the gun player straddles to 40, and I go for the classic limp re-raise. The big blind gets out of the way, and I do get the opportunity to spring the trap. The sizing you can debate, but to me, there's only one thing left to do. All in, 3-bet to over 600 big blinds. You just got to get that max value. We, of course, get a snap call from Ace-Jack of Hearts, and he's drawing dead. The game breaks after that. I give the nice gentleman behind the cage all these chips. Then in exchange, he gives me a bunch of money. The way I played this hand probably needs some context. This player showed his cards during the middle of the hand twice, the bigger pot of which ended up being 11K. Flop, 2-3 jack, 2 clubs. What does he flip over? 7 of clubs. He has 5K behind. What's the villain have? Flush draw, obviously. What's the other player have? What's he do? All in. Snap call, aces scoops it. So it was not this player's night. I think he lost 10K in poker alone. Not sure how he did in blackjack. So for my hand, we already know the result. But when he got the action, he said double it, making it 110, which not sure how he did that, but he's been heavily drinking. So I just used it as an excuse to start talking to him, maybe get some information like those other hands. Kind of think, what should I raise it to? Maybe 500, 600. What's the most I could raise for him to call? He then just says, well, I'm thinking for around 30 seconds. We can just get it all in, you know. I then just ask, you want me to go all in? He says yes, and I took his word for it, and you know the rest. And some people say poker's dead. Back to somewhat normal poker now, playing at Central Coast Casino for these last 3 hands. I'm on the button, straddling for $10 and face a limp and a somewhat small raise of 40. In position, deep stacked with 10 in already, I call, and we go to a flop 5 ways, hitting top pair with a jack of clubs kicker as well. I face a good-sized bet of 3/4 pot from the original raiser. I call, not loving it though. Turn is a blank. The villain checks to me, and this is the spot in the hand I find interesting. The decisions between bet for value / protection from flush draws or overcards, or check back for pot control. Might be the wrong thought process, but I didn't think this villain would raise my bet. If the villain is likely to check raise, check, that's the clear decision. But I didn't feel that way, so I went for the half pot bet, and he calls. Pretty confident he has us beat now. River bails us out though. Now we don't need to steal the pot like if a club hit the river and we had to try to represent clubs. I go for the clear value bet of 600, and I think the size is fine. He makes the call. Pocket king's no good. Next up, queen 10 of clubs in the big blind, facing a raise to 25 from early position, and closing the action getting 4-1. I make the call. Flop top pair with an up and down straight draw. The original raiser bets pot of 100. I make the call. Turn is amazing in a king, giving us a straight. I think many players get into the habit of default checking to the raiser, but this seems like a big mistake to check. That would be essentially giving villain a free card to boat up or make a flush. I donk for 225, and he makes the call. River is a blank. Similar to that first hand, I go for the small bet. I think I should have gone a little bit bigger here in this line compared to the first one because it looks more bluffy. The other one was pretty clear to me I had an ace. He does call. We simply cannot lose. For our last hand, we got to double the cards and quadruple the action in PLO. Playing 5-5 with some limps ahead of me. On the button with a mediocre hand. Position matters more in PLO than No Limit Hold'em, and more in deep stack games. So combine the two, this seems perfectly fine to me, especially with action players. One being the same guy from my biggest pot at the other card room. He's in the big blind, pots it. His buddy calls as well, and 2 players behind. All right, flop me something good. That for sure qualifies. Top 2 pair with a gut shot to a non-nut straight, plus backdoor diamonds on a rainbow board. Action goes pot, call, all in for slightly more, and another call. Should be ahead of every player's range. Essentially all in, I pot it. Action then goes call, fold. 3 9 or ace are the worst cards, don't want those. But an 8 of diamonds, definitely decent. With such short stacks left and the action checking to me, easy all in and both players call. River blanks out. Nobody really wants to show besides me. 9-7, good. The equities of the hands on the flop were 16%, with the original raiser basically just having naked pocket kings. 19% for the other 2 players, having a 10 and a 2-8 straight draw and king-queen. Then 46% for me, almost a coin flip to scoop a 4-way pot. Seems pretty good. Actually holding up, really good. I will be giving monthly updates and hand history vlogs from now on. So see you all in early November when I review my month of October.